Fear is one of the greatest liars in life. It holds people hostage in their comfort zones, convincing them that hesitation is protection, but the truth is, safety is an illusion. Growth, success, and transformation live beyond the borders of fear. If you want to create real change in your life, you must force yourself to push through fear even when it feels impossible. Every major breakthrough in life comes from doing what scares you. The people who reach their goals, build empires, or create lasting impact are not fearless, they're disciplined. They act in spite of fear. They make the call when their hands are shaking. They speak up when their voice is trembling. They step into the unknown long before they feel ready. That's the difference between success and stagnation. The courage to move forward anyway. If you're waiting for fear to disappear, you'll be waiting forever. Fear doesn't vanish, it is conquered. And the only way to conquer fear is with action. Not with thoughts, not with planning. Action. Every time you take one step in the direction of what scares you, you send a signal to your subconscious, I am in control. And every step forward chips away at the power fear has over your life. Forcing yourself to act despite fear is not about being reckless, it's about reclaiming your power. You don't need more motivation. You don't need more time. What you need is a decision, a firm, non-negotiable commitment that you are done letting fear control your choices. Because once you decide, everything changes. Your brain follows your lead. Your body gathers strength, and your future starts to bend in your favor. Remember this, the version of you you're chasing is on the other side of fear. You will never become that person by playing it safe. Force yourself to speak up, show up, take risks, and trust your inner voice. You won't always feel brave, but you can be relentless. You can choose progress over paralysis, movement over excuses, and boldness over regret. The fear will always be there, but so will the fire inside you. And when you force yourself to push through fear, you'll discover a version of yourself that is more powerful, more focused, and more free than you ever imagined. Fear is one of the most powerful forces in the human experience and one of the most misunderstood. We're conditioned to believe fear is here to protect us, that it's a natural warning system, alerting us to danger so we can survive. And while that may have been true when our ancestors faced physical threats like predators or natural disasters, in the modern world, fear has become something else entirely. It no longer protects, it prevents. It stops us from living, from growing, from becoming the person we're meant to be. At its core, fear is a mental projection. It's your brain imagining a worst-case scenario that hasn't even happened yet. Think about that. Most of what you fear is not real, it's a story. A story your mind creates to keep you from discomfort. But growth requires discomfort. Expansion demands risk. And the problem with fear is that it makes you believe that comfort equals safety. It tells you, don't speak up, you might get rejected. Or, don't try something new, you might fail. So you stay silent, you stay still, you stay small. But here's the truth. Fear doesn't show up when you're doing nothing. It shows up when you're about to grow. That anxiety you feel before a big move, that's not a sign to stop. That's a signal you're on the edge of something important. Fear doesn't come to sabotage your life. It comes to test your resolve. Will you listen to it or will you push forward anyway? Many people confuse fear with intuition, but the two are very different. Fear is reactive. Intuition is calm and grounded. Intuition speaks from wisdom. Fear speaks from trauma, doubt, and limitation. Fear makes decisions based on past pain. It clings to the known, even if the known is misery. That's why people stay in toxic relationships, dead-end jobs, and unfulfilling lives. Not because they don't want more, but because fear tells them that change is dangerous. What's even worse is that fear can wear many disguises. It can look like procrastination, It can feel like overthinking. It can sound like, I'm just being realistic. But beneath all those masks is the same emotion: fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough. And yet, most of the things we fear never even happen. Studies have shown that over 85% of what we worry about never becomes reality. And for the small percentage that does, we're almost always stronger than we expected. So not only is fear often irrational, it also underestimates your ability to handle adversity. So what do you do when fear shows up? You call it out. You strip it of its power. You remind yourself that fear is just a feeling, not a fact. It has no authority unless you give it permission. And the moment you stop believing its lies is the moment you begin to take your life back. You'll never completely eliminate fear, and you don't need to. The goal is not to be fearless. The goal is to fear lessened, to trust yourself more. Every time you move forward in spite of fear, you gain power. You gain proof. You become more of who you are meant to be. Remember this: fear's job is to keep you alive, but your job is to keep yourself awake. Alive isn't enough. You were not born to merely survive. You were born to lead, to create, to contribute, to rise. So the next time fear whispers in your ear, telling you to shrink, to wait, to quit, stand up and speak back. You don't own me. And then take the next step forward. That's how you win. One of the most common lies we tell ourselves is, I'll do it when I'm ready. Ready to start the business. Ready to speak on stage. Ready to take the risk, make the move, or bet on ourselves. But here's the raw truth most people avoid. You will never feel ready. And that's okay, because readiness is not a feeling, it's a decision. The belief that you need to feel confident before taking action is one of the most paralyzing myths in personal growth. People waste years, sometimes decades, waiting for the perfect moment. They keep preparing, planning, overanalyzing, and telling themselves they're just not ready yet. But what they're really doing is hiding. They're using the illusion of readiness as an excuse to avoid discomfort. Here's the thing: if you're waiting for fear to leave, for doubts to disappear, or for perfect clarity before you move forward, you're going to be waiting for the rest of your life. Readiness is not a magical state that suddenly appears. It's something you build through action. You grow into readiness by doing the thing before you feel prepared. Every successful person you admire didn't begin with unshakable confidence. They started with uncertainty and acted anyway. What separates them from everyone else is that they moved before they felt qualified. They trusted the process more than their emotions. Think of it like this. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a diving board. You want to jump, but your body hesitates. You think, maybe I'll feel more ready in a few minutes. But time passes, and the hesitation remains. Why? Because the readiness doesn't come from standing still. It comes from the leap. The moment you jump, you shift. You feel the fear, yes, but also the freedom. You break the pattern. You prove to yourself that action is what changes you, not thought. The biggest breakthroughs in life don't come from certainty. They come from courage. And courage doesn't wait for permission. It acts in the presence of fear, not in its absence. So if you're waiting to feel brave before you take the leap, you've got it backwards. Bravery comes after the leap, not before. Even more, acting before you're ready sends a powerful message to your mind. I trust myself. And that trust builds confidence. With each small win, each step into the unknown, your inner strength grows. You begin to realize that fear didn't break you, that the world didn't end, that you are more capable than you thought. On the other hand, every time you hesitate and retreat, you reinforce the belief that you're not enough. You strengthen the fear and shrink your identity. You teach your brain that discomfort means danger, when really, discomfort is just a sign that you're expanding. So what's the solution? Act faster. Decide quicker. Move anyway. Start before you're ready. Speak before you feel perfectly polished. Launch the idea while it's still messy. Take the meeting, even if your hands are shaking, because waiting for certainty is the fastest way to kill momentum, and without momentum, nothing grows. Here's the truth. Most of life's defining moments will not come with a warning. They won't give you time to rehearse. The opportunity will knock, and you'll either open the door or stay frozen behind it. And the ones who open it, they're not the ones who are ready. They're the ones who chose to become ready on the way. So stop waiting. You don't need more preparation. You need boldness. You need trust. And above all, you need to move. Because the life you want doesn't wait for perfect. It rewards action. Fear feeds on inaction. The longer you wait, the stronger it becomes. The more you think about what could go wrong, the bigger the monster in your mind grows. But the moment you take even the smallest step forward, something powerful happens. Fear begins to shrink. Because fear can only survive in theory. It cannot survive in motion. When fear grips you, your instinct may be to retreat, to wait until the fear passes. But that moment rarely comes. You cannot think your way out of fear. You cannot wish your way past it. You can only move through it. And the moment you act, you start to take back control. Action is not just how you face fear, it's how you defeat it. Think of fear like a shadow. It always looks bigger when you're standing still. But take a step toward it, and the shape changes. The illusion breaks. That's because the mind is wired for protection, not progress. Left unchecked, it will keep you stuck in hesitation, rehearsing worst-case scenarios, convincing you that later is a better time to start. But later is a lie, and the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to move. Action short-circuits this cycle. It disrupts the fear pattern in your brain. Even a small, imperfect move, sending the email, making the call, walking into the room, sends a signal to your nervous system. I'm not frozen. I'm capable. I'm doing something. This alone changes your entire emotional state. The irony is, we often wait to feel motivated before we act. But motivation doesn't come before action, it comes after. You act first, and then momentum builds. You speak up once, and confidence follows. You try, fail, and try again, and suddenly you realize fear isn't the wall, it's the doorway, and you've already passed through it. Most people overestimate how much courage they need. They think they have to be fearless to begin. But the truth is, you don't need massive action, you just need any action. One small forward-moving decision, one moment of bravery. That's it. Because courage isn't a personality trait, it's a choice, and it's always available. Take, for example, someone terrified of public speaking. They might imagine every scenario embarrassment, judgment, failure. The fear grows and grows the longer they stay in thought. But the moment they speak, even if their voice shakes, the fear starts to dissolve. Why? Because action provides proof. You learn that you can survive it. You can do the hard thing. And every time you do, your confidence compounds. This doesn't mean the fear disappears forever. It might still be there tomorrow or next week when you try something new again. But now you know the secret. You don't have to wait for the fear to go away. You just have to move anyway. And once you start, you realize the fear was never as strong as it seemed. The world doesn't reward perfection. It rewards those who show up. The ones who raise their hand, take the shot, send the pitch, speak the truth. Every great leap begins with one small push forward. And you don't need to feel fearless to make that push. You just need to be willing. So when fear shows up and it will and freeze, don't feed it with more thinking. Starve it with action. Start small. Start messy. But most of all, start now. Because once you take that first step, the fear loses its grip. And in its place, you'll find progress. You'll find momentum. And you'll find the version of yourself who is no longer waiting but winning. There will be days when you don't feel like showing up. Days when fear is loud, motivation is low, and every fiber of your body screams, not today. And on those days, you are faced with a choice. Follow your emotions or follow your discipline. That one decision is the line between staying stuck and breaking through. We live in a world obsessed with feelings. Do what feels right. Listen to your heart, but feelings are fleeting. Emotions change with your mood, your environment, and even your blood sugar levels. Discipline, on the other hand, is not emotional. It's a decision, a commitment, a promise you make to yourself that says, I will show up no matter what. High achievers don't rely on inspiration. They rely on systems. They don't wait to feel ready or excited. They move with consistency because they know this. Discipline gets results, feelings don't. Let's be real, if you only acted when you felt like it, how often would you push past resistance? How often would you wake up early, put in extra hours, step into uncomfortable conversations, or make bold moves? Probably not often. That's why discipline is the separator. It's what turns ordinary people into extraordinary leaders. Not talent, not luck, not emotion, discipline. When you operate from emotion, you do what's easy. When you operate from discipline, you do what's necessary. The gym session, the call, the work, the reps, it's not about excitement, it's about execution. And here's the secret. The more you follow through with discipline, the less power your emotions have over you. Think about a rocket on the launch pad. It takes massive fuel to break through the atmosphere, but once it does, the momentum carries it forward with less resistance. The same goes for you. Discipline is the fuel. In the beginning, it feels hard. You're pushing against your old patterns, your fears, your excuses. But with every disciplined action, you build momentum, and momentum creates freedom. Discipline is also the fastest way to build self-trust. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, even a small one, your confidence grows. You begin to believe, I am the kind of person who follows through. That identity shift is where real power begins. And the best part? You don't need to start big. Just start showing up daily. Not when it's convenient, not when it's easy, daily. You will not always feel like it. That's the point. That's where the growth is. Showing up when it's hard is the price of transformation. The people you admire, they didn't build their lives on motivation. They built it on discipline. They trained themselves to act independently of how they felt. And that's exactly what you can do, too. Let's be clear. This doesn't mean you ignore your emotions. It means you don't obey them blindly. You acknowledge the fear, the tiredness, the doubt, and you move anyway. Because the mission matters more than your mood. Your vision matters more than your comfort. And your future demands more than your feelings are willing to give. You don't rise by feeling, you rise by doing. When you choose discipline over emotion, you gain control. You become unshakable. You become unstoppable. And you begin to live a life defined not by circumstances, but by character. So the next time you don't feel like it, remind yourself, this is the moment that matters most. Because the person who wins is not the one who feels the best, it's the one who keeps going regardless. Discipline isn't sexy. It's not glamorous. But it is freedom. And it is yours if you're willing to choose it. There comes a moment in everyone's life when they have to make a choice, a moment when they stop blaming, stop waiting, stop hoping for something to change, and they decide, this is my life and I'm in control now. Until that decision is made, nothing truly changes. You can read all the books, watch all the motivational videos, and gather all the strategies in the world. But if you don't take responsibility for where you are and where you're going, you'll keep circling the same problems, trapped in the same cycles. Control doesn't mean you dictate every outcome. It means you take ownership of your response. And ownership is where all your power lives. Fear thrives in passivity. When you feel like life is happening to you, fear has the upper hand. It grows stronger every time you delay action, every time you defer to someone else's opinion, every time you wait for someone to save you. But when you decide, truly decide that you are in charge of your life, everything shifts. Fear doesn't vanish, but it loses control of the wheel. You're no longer reacting, you're leading. It starts with a single internal command: enough. Enough waiting, enough doubting, enough giving your power away to fear, failure, other people's expectations, or the voice in your head that says you can't. You can, but only if you choose to. The problem is, most people don't really make decisions. They entertain them. They flirt with change. They say things like, I should start, I need to stop, I want to do better. But there's no power in those phrases. A true decision is clear. It's final. It's non-negotiable. It's the moment when I wish becomes I will. When you burn the excuses and take full command of your path, when you decide you're in control, you stop outsourcing your destiny. No more blaming your past, your parents, your environment, your circumstances. You may not be responsible for everything that happened to you, but you are responsible for what you do next. And that's where your strength begins. You shift from being a victim of fear to being the architect of your future. Being in control doesn't mean everything will be easy. It means you're no longer waiting for the path to be smooth. You understand that discomfort is part of the process. You don't seek perfect conditions. You create momentum with what you've got. You don't wait for permission. You give yourself permission. This mindset changes how you move through life. You start thinking like a leader instead of a follower. Instead of asking, can I? You ask, how will I? You stop negotiating with fear. You stop arguing for your limitations. And you stop living like you're at the mercy of your emotion. It doesn't mean you'll always feel confident. It doesn't mean you'll never fail. But once you've decided you're in control, failure becomes a lesson, not a sentence. Fear becomes feedback, not a stop sign. And doubt becomes fuel, not a reason to quit. Your life will only rise as high as your standards. So raise them. Decide that fear no longer gets a vote. Decide that you are done living small. Decide that you are capable, even when it feels like you're not. Because the act of deciding is what unlocks your power. The moment you stop waiting for things to get easier and instead get stronger, you become unstoppable. That shift doesn't come from outside, it comes from within. It comes from one decision: I am in control now. And once you make that decision, really make it, there is no limit to how far you can go. Fear is the gatekeeper to your next level. It stands between who you are and who you could be between, the life you know and the one you're meant to live. But here's the truth. Most people never realize. Everything you want lives on the other side of fear. And if you're willing to walk through it, even trembling, what you'll find is not destruction, it's power. The most powerful version of you doesn't exist in the absence of fear. They exist because you went through it. Fear is not a dead end, it's a door. And on the other side is your next breakthrough, your next evolution, your untapped potential waiting to be claimed. Fear often feels final. It makes your heart race, your mind doubt, your body tense. And in that moment, it's easy to think, this must be a sign to stop. But fear doesn't show up to stop you. It shows up when you're about to do something that matters, something that challenges your comfort zone and shakes the foundations of your current identity. Because that's what fear really is, a signal that you're entering unfamiliar territory. And unfamiliar means opportunity, growth, power. If you always stay where it's safe, you'll never know what you're truly capable of. You'll never uncover the depth of your strength, your resilience, your brilliance. And those things, they don't live in the shallow waters. They're found in the deep end where fear lives. The beautiful paradox is this: fear is not a block, it's a bridge. Walk across it, and you don't just find success, you find you, the version of you who is no longer shackled by doubt, the one who speaks up, shows up, and rises above excuses. That version has always been inside of you. Fear just kept it buried. Once you step through fear, you realize it was never as powerful as it pretended to be. It was a shadow, not a wall. It was smoke, not fire. And what you gain on the other side isn't just the result. You gain certainty. Not the kind of certainty that everything will be easy or perfect, but the kind that says, I can handle anything. That kind of power can't be faked. It's earned. Earned by doing the hard things, by facing the conversations you avoid, by taking the chances you delay, by choosing courage when comfort is easier. And every time you walk through fear, even a little, that power grows. Look at every person who has changed the world, built something massive, or lived a bold, meaningful life. They all walked through fear. Every single one. And on the other side, they found something even greater than success. They found freedom. Freedom from the opinions of others. Freedom from self-doubt. Freedom from the limits they once believed were permanent. You don't have to do it all at once. You just have to move. Take one step, then another, and another. And soon you'll look back and realize fear never had the power you did. You always did. You were just one decision away, one action away, one moment of boldness away. So when fear rises, don't run, don't freeze. Lean in, step through, and watch how fast the world begins to open up for you. Because the other side of fear isn't empty. It's everything you've been searching for, and it's been waiting for you to claim it